World War I started with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. On June the 28th, 1914, he was killed in Sarajevo by a Serbian nationalist. This triggered a chain reaction among European countries. The Allies included France, Russia, and Britain, while the Central Powers were Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. Alliances meant that if one country was attacked, others would join the fight. The assassination was the spark that ignited the powder keg. Within weeks, a small conflict turned into a full-scale war. When the war began, both sides expected it to be over quickly, but they were wrong. The war soon turned into a stalemate, with soldiers digging deep trenches to protect themselves. This marked the start of trench warfare, which would define much of World War I. The trenches were horrific places, filled with mud, rats, and disease. Soldiers lived and fought in these trenches for months, facing constant artillery fire and sniper attacks. The space between opposing trenches was known as no man's land, and crossing it was extremely dangerous. Trench warfare created a deadlock, with neither side able to gain significant ground. The war became a battle of attrition, where the goal was to wear down the enemy. Despite the grim circumstances, soldiers developed a sense of camaraderie, sharing their experiences and supporting each other. World War I saw significant technological advancements that changed how wars were fought. Machine guns, tanks, and airplanes were used extensively for the first time, making the war even deadlier. Machine guns could fire hundreds of rounds per minute, mowing down waves of attacking soldiers. Tanks were introduced to break through enemy lines, although early models were slow and unreliable. Airplanes conducted reconnaissance and engaged in aerial combat known as dogfights. Poison gas was another deadly innovation, causing horrific injuries and deaths. One of the most significant battles was the Battle of the Somme, from July to November 1916. The Allies aimed to break through German lines, but the battle resulted in over 1 million total casualties with little strategic gain. Another major battle was the Battle of Verdun, lasting from February to December 1916, becoming a symbol of French determination and resilience. Both sides suffered heavy losses with no decisive victory. The Battle of the Somme began on July 1, 1916, and lasted until November. It aimed to relieve pressure on French forces at Verdun, but symbolized trench warfare's futility. The first day saw nearly 60,000 British soldiers killed, wounded, or missing. The battle continued for months, resulting in over 1 million casualties. Chemical weapons, first used by Germans in 1915, caused severe respiratory damage and death. Soldiers wore gas masks, but the fear of gas attacks was constant. Chemical warfare was later banned under international law due to its inhumane effects. The war finally ended on November 11, 1918, with an armistice signed between the Allies and Germany. The formal end came with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles on June 28, 1919. The treaty imposed harsh penalties on Germany, forcing them to accept full responsibility for the war and pay large reparations to the Allies. The treaty also took away German territories and limited their military, causing deep resentment in Germany. The Allies emerged victorious, but the cost was immense, with millions of soldiers and civilians dead. Economies were shattered and political landscapes had changed. With the map of Europe redrawn and new countries emerging, the Treaty of Versailles aimed to ensure lasting peace, but also planted the seeds for future conflicts. The harsh treatment of Germany created a sense of injustice. Many historians believe that the treaty's flaws contributed to the outbreak of World War II 2 decades later. World War I involved many countries from around the globe, with the main groups being the Allies and the Central Powers. The Allies included France, Russia, Britain, Italy, and later the United States, while the Central Powers were Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria. The war was fought on multiple fronts, with battles raging in Europe, the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. The human cost of World War I was staggering, with around 10 million soldiers dead and millions more affected by famine, disease, and displacement. The war left deep scars on societies, with many families losing loved ones. The aftermath saw significant political changes, including the Russian Revolution and the rise of the Soviet Union. The Austro-Hungarian and Ottoman empires collapsed, and new nations emerged in Europe and the Middle East. The war reshaped the world in ways that are still felt today. The legacy of World War I is a reminder of the devastating impact of global conflict.